Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to Super Spreading Bitcoin 2022. This week in Bitcoin. Today is February the 4th of that year, 2022. Wow. We were making progress. Strong hand, long-term thinking. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. Be a unique beast like here at CoinBeast. All right? And don't FOMO on alts. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. I am offended by selling. Oh my. The Bitcoin price is over $40,000. I don't care because it always returns to its all-time high. We're one day closer to an all-time high. We're 1 second closer to this show really starting and not me yelping anymore. We got 3 freaking new guests. Okay, they're all linked to below. They're known commodities, but they've never been on the show before. I haven't had an all-rookie show in a long time. Justin is here he's deep in the heart of Texas. I'm actually in Texas right now, too. Bitcoin Gandalf is in the house. Oh, yeah, he's over in Europe. He's across the pond. And Louis Schulman is in beautiful Southern Florida, baby. And we're going to talk about South Florida because, of course, Bitcoin Magazine is the big sponsor of the show. And the Bitcoin 2022, we're super spreading the news about this great event that is only 60 days away. They told me it's only 60 days away. I can't believe time is flying. It is April 6th to 9th. And now I'm going to read you what I got to read you about Bitcoin 2022. And we're going to ask all these guys if they're going to be there. I mean, if Schulman if you're down in Florida, you can just walk to the event. All right. Bitcoin 2022 is the largest Bitcoin event in the world that takes place April 6th and 9th in Miami Beach, Florida. Will LeBron be there? He took his talents there once, I know. We'll talk about LeBron soon. All 4 days, I don't think he'll be there. All 4 days will be jam-packed, but I like that he's talking about Bitcoin. All 4 days will be jam-packed with exclusive content, exciting announcements, and incredible lineup of Bitcoin speakers. Remember, if you're watching this on tape, you can skip all over this and play this at 2x. Artists and leaders. Day 1 is Industry Day. Wow. For enterprising Bitcoiners who are looking to build a business or career within the ecosystem. Days 2 and 3 are general conference days featuring speakers like El Salvador El Presidente Nayib Bukele, who has promised a big surprise. Oh man, a big surprise. If you're on days 2 and 3, I'll be there too. You can touch my freaking hair if you want to, okay? Will that get you to freaking come to this event, people? It's linked to below. Adam10 is the freaking discount code, okay? Okay, they're going to be CEOs like Michael Saylor there. Don't worship him, people. Don't worship him. Elizabeth Stark, Jack Mallers, Adam Back, and hundreds more. The conference caps off on the 4th day with the world's first and largest Bitcoin music festival, Sound Money Fest, headlined by these rappers that I don't even know, and Steve Aoki, I don't know who these people are, but I'm supposed to say their names. I'm not saying them. San Hello? Deadmas 5? I'm still stuck in the early 2000s here, so I don't know what's going on. I value my wealth in Bitcoin, not like rappers and stuff, but whatever. Money. All right, wait. So last year's conference sold out, and that's serious, dude. There were like over 10,000 people there. Now they're going to be over like 30,000 people there, and this year's is on pace to be 3x larger. So make sure you grab your tickets before it's too late and visit b.tc/conference to learn more. Pay in Bitcoin to save. I'm offended by slang, but whatever. And use promo code Adam10 for 10% off. And I will see you in Miami. All right. I read the whole thing. Dude, does anyone else actually read the whole thing? Am I the only guy that actually follows all the rules?
Probably.
I probably am. I'm conscientious here. I do what I say I'm going to do. So let's just jump right into this. Okay. Let's talk about Russia, and Bitcoin. And Gandalf has a tweet out there. He is linked to below. And pound that like button, people. We're starting the real part of the show. If Russia adopts Bitcoin amidst the geopolitical tensions happening right now, things could get really ugly for Bitcoin and Bitcoiners in the West. Uh-oh. Well, what's he mean by that? But let's just see. He has a poll also. Also, Russia adopts Bitcoin to skirt around economic sanctions. What do the U.S. and its allies do? A, restrict Bitcoin and ban Bitcoin. B, race to embrace Bitcoin to assume mutual preservation of monetary integrity. I'm going to tell you something. I don't think Russia is adopting Bitcoin, but a lot of people are talking about it. There are rumors about this that are out there. I actually think if they did adopt it, that the United States would do the wrong thing and try to restrict it in some way, which is not smart. I also agree if Russia actually adopted Bitcoin, that all the haters of Bitcoin in America would have a field day and start saying you're unpatriotic if you like Bitcoin. But Gandalf, take it away, baby. Your take on all this.
Yeah, I woke up this morning, I think, and I saw people tweeting about potential Russia adoption, and I saw Max Kaiser was saying that something about Russia, just potentially looking to start adopting Bitcoin to skirt around sanctions, right? Obviously, like, I don't believe that that's necessarily true, although Max does work for for RT, which is a Russian government news or TV. So who knows what he knows, and who knows if what he's saying is true, or he's just, it's like a Bitcoin's going to 220K prediction style tweet. But I just thought it immediately made me think like that's not good for Bitcoin in this particular scenario with the geopolitical tensions. I didn't think that Russia adopting Bitcoin to, even if it's just posing that they're going to do it to skirt around sanctions, I didn't think that was a good thing for Bitcoiners in the US and any of the countries that ally with the US. So I agree with you, Adam. And then Jason Lowery responded saying, well, what if the US does adopt it as a national security measure and to assure, he's thinking like, they have nukes. If they adopt Bitcoin, it's like they have nukes. Now we need to get nukes to assure that they don't nuke us. But I don't know if that quite works with money, right? They can adopt Bitcoin. We can try to ban Bitcoin, or and nothing would happen initially. They can't destroy the US with Bitcoin by adopting Bitcoin tomorrow.
No, they can't. I would think if Russia adopted Bitcoin in the long term, they would destroy their authoritarian rule. I mean, Putin would be a weaker leader. I mean,
I'm not in the camp of like authoritarian nations are going to adopt Bitcoin. I think it's like the complete opposite. But I'm also not in the camp of like, if Russia adopts it, it's a good thing. It's probably, especially Russia, especially in the current climate. I don't think that would be a positive thing for Bitcoin in the short to medium term.
Yes. Yeah, so do you see if Russia adopted it, that the propaganda within the United States would increase? Like, you're unpatriotic. You're like Russia likes.
We live, I think, on Bitcoin Twitter, we live in an echo chamber, right? We're surrounded by people who are really like optimistic about Bitcoin and see how great it is, or at least they're of the opinion that it's really great. They don't realize that most other people either don't care, don't think about Bitcoin, or have no idea about anything to do with it. And that just like, they might just take whatever the mainstream media says at face value about COVID, like COVID stuff. People just kind of follow what the media is selling them. And they have this narrative that's been fed to them without them thinking about it. It'll be the same thing with Bitcoin. Like if Russia adopts Bitcoin and the narrative is like they're doing it to skirt US sanctions, the media isn't going to be like, this is great for Bitcoin. Now like, let's all adopt. No, they're going to like, Bitcoin is bad. It's adopted by Russia and it'll be attacked. And then everyone will be like, Bitcoin is bad.
Well, it does give Bitcoin a news cycle, though. And I think maybe one of those things where any news is good news. Like a major country adopting Bitcoin, it puts it in a new category. People are going to hate on it. Like they're going to hate on it in a new way, which I think is probably good.
I think that obviously the issue is highly nuanced, and there are, that the fact that it would get, a negative spin in the news is one factor. I think what you're saying, that any news is good news, and it puts it in front of more people. Some people might take a look at it and then who wouldn't have, and then realize like, wow, this is actually amazing. It's not bad. And then there's people who are like, well, the US can't, you can't ban Bitcoin. I mean, that's like a semantics thing. What does ban actually mean? Right. I think that Bitcoin can be made illegal. That's 100% a factual statement. Bitcoin, using Bitcoin, selling Bitcoin, buying Bitcoin, offering Bitcoin related services, all of that can be made illegal. Now, how easy is it to actually enforce it? Well, at an institutional and like business level, really easy. All businesses that deal in Bitcoin would drop it in an instant because, their business is on the line. Individuals, sure, we might still
Yeah.
torrent movies, even though it's illegal as copyright infringement, but they can't stop torrenting because it's just hard to enforce a copyright infringement at that level. So we could still use Bitcoin between us, but any business in Bitcoin and any institution in Bitcoin would have to exit.
I could see it galvanizing like the political people that are pushing for regulating Bitcoin now. It would give them a new tool in their tool belt for arguing for that crap.
Oh yeah, man! That would be the ultimate. It would be the ultimate tool in their tool belt. I want to say, Gandalf, you make a very good point about Max Kaiser. Also, you're a dude that doesn't put that dude on a pedestal. And there are way too many people that worship every word that dude said. I think some of the things he says are out of hype and out of spite. He has a complete hatred of bankers that is sickening to a sickening level. I think it's just a sickness on his part. So and he works for a Russia propaganda outlet, and he's worked for an Iranian.
Really?
He works Russia.
Kaiser reports on RT, which is Russian government television.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a propaganda.
Been like that for 10 years or more.
RT is a Russia propaganda outlet, and it can never be forgotten that Max Kaiser worked for the Iranian equivalent of that, the Iranian propaganda. He took money from Iran. I mean, whatever. So Max Kaiser is Max Kaiser, whatever. You can say what you want to say about Iran, Russia. Okay, but I want to go back to Gandalf here. Your original point, though, your poll. So if Russia actually adopted it, what do you think that? What do you think the America would do? Do you think they would try to ban it at that point? They wouldn't do the mutually assured good thing. They would do the ignorant thing.
Mutually assured sound money.
Yeah. They wouldn't do mutually assured sound money. I don't think they would. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Gandalf. But
no, I would go for a. I mean, I would go for they would try to like restrict, ban, or it would be like spun into a negative thing about Bitcoin that they would use to attack Bitcoin. And I understand like there's some support at a like a congressional level with Loomis, and there's like obviously other people who are running for governors of Texas, and there's like state level House support in Arizona and stuff like that. But you don't know if these people are just LARPing. Like they might just be like, oh, I can see that if I just like stroke the ego of Bitcoiners, then I get some political support. I think a lot of the political support for I think Cynthia Loomis seems to be like legitimately appreciates Bitcoin. I think a lot of the people that are coming later are just like jumping on the bandwagon because it's hot and it's like blockchain, crypto, Bitcoin, or these people have been smart enough to like identify a subsection of crypto, which is Bitcoiners, and like, oh, we'll cater to these guys, right? Like whereas like Mayor of Miami and the New York guy Eric Adams, I think it is, they're going Bitcoin, but they're also cryptoing with like Miami coin and New York City coin, whatever else. So these people are smart. Like they figured out that they can attract, attention and potential support for themselves by supporting Bitcoin. It could be it's definitely something that's like a mutually beneficial thing. They're doing something because they think they're going to get something back. I don't think they just like love Bitcoin.
I like you bring up the term LARPing with some of these politicians. No doubt about it. You call them smart. I think they're aggressive. I don't know if they're all smart. They know how to make up. They're political. They know how to make political moves.
Somebody had a good reply on my on the poll. He said they will publicly FUD, but they will stop buying at the same time.
Yeah. Well, by the way,
I don't believe that either, but that would be amazing. That would be the move, right? You FUD it and then you buy loads.
Yeah. By the way, this poll is linked to below. Lewis, you haven't gotten to speak yet. Take it away on Russia theories and everything that we've been throwing around here.
Yeah, that's a Russia expert right here. Just kidding. I think that it's kind of tough to say. I've been trying to take in what y'all have been saying. I mean, obviously the opponents of Bitcoin who are grasping for any talking points that haven't been debunked yet, because I mean, I think, some of the recent debunking that's happened is a lot of the energy debate, right? Talking about Bitcoin's energy consumption. And that's been the hot thing. I mean, for years and years and years, but especially recently again. And you just see the Bitcoin community thoroughly debunk that and get people on it. And so they're just like, well, what's the next thing? And if this turns out to be something, right, because of the easy ability to spin anything related to Russia as negative for America, they're going to grasp it. It's just going to be, to what extent is that going to be persuasive for people watching it? It's comes down to the same kind of argument of who's the audience that's actually, talking about which media outlets are going to be the people that run with the story. How well are they going to be able to explain it? And does their explanation as it often does, reveal how little they understand the underlying thing they're discussing. So it's kind of like, yeah, they're going to run with it, but no one in Bitcoin is going to be concerned about it. I don't think it's going to shake the conviction of any of the politicians we just talked about from Miami or anything like that. And it's just going to, pose an additional blow to the credibility of the few people in high positions of authority in media or politics who take this argument and actually believe it's worth like propagating. Shout out Elizabeth Warren. If you take up this argument, I mean, you're going to like divide your fan base by another couple 100,000 people. I mean, it's going to hit zero eventually. So like maybe run with it.
All right, Dustin, you chimed in a few times, but I know you've got more to say here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when I think about Russia adopting, first off, I don't think it's very likely. But if they did, the thing that excites me is like, seems to be a lot of countries in Central and South America that are considering it. And if just any major country made a move like that, I bet you it would just make it seem a lot more reasonable to them. I think that'd be awesome. And I mean, I guess like, I feel like the US is always going to hate on Bitcoin no matter what happens. And so like, as Bitcoin progresses, we're just going to keep getting that. And I mean, not that I control any of this, but if I did, I wouldn't bother with like trying to defend against that. Like the US is going to FUD. That's what they're going to do.
Well, you say the U.S. is going to. I think there's certain corners of the U.S. I mean, we'll break down the Democratic Republican thing later because when we were on, what were we on together? When we were Clubhouse, you and I were talking about this a bit. And I want to expand on the U.S. political side, but now that we're talking about the international political side here, let's. And you guys, if you have anything else to say about the Russia, you can keep on chiming in. But we're going to try to segue into the IMF guy here. All right, and IMF.
Oh, this guy.
Yeah. Cryptoization poses risk for emerging markets, says an IMF counselor. Okay, and the IMF has been speaking out against Bitcoin being dangerous and scary, I guess, since El Salvador has kind of slap in the face to the IMF. I mean, to me, I see the IMF loves to keep these developing countries hooked on their loans, hooked on their way, okay? And so Bitcoin, you're in a whole different realm. You're kind of kicking that the fiat addiction to the side, the loan, the IMF addiction to the side when you get, and so they're threatened, and they're going to be sidelined. They're going to be headlines like this. So I see it as expected. Of course, the IMF is going to not want to see other countries like El Salvador.
They certainly weren't going to come out in support of it.
No, of course not.
Could you imagine? Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
I mean, that's a beautiful summary right there, Louis. Yeah, pound that like button, dudes. Of course, they're not going to come out and support. What did everybody expect them to do? But who wants to talk about this here? So I heard a bunch of people yelling there. Dustin?
I've been looking into this guy, and like he basically got out of college, worked at the Federal Reserve for 15 years, and then now he's working at the IMF for 5 years. I think he's just stuck in those like elite financial circles where they're all Keynesians and they all just like talk hot air to each other, and that's just how he sees the world. And honestly, reading through his statements, it's just very confusing. Like here's one of the quotes: "Crypto is being used to take money out of countries that are regarded as unstable by external investors." Like, what does that mean? Like, so he thinks that. Like, I can't even dissect that.
I think part of the thing is there are capital controls in these countries. It's a way of getting around capital controls. These countries shouldn't have capital controls in the first darn place, okay? That's part of it. Some people like Steve Henke just have this blind belief that Bitcoin extracts value out of countries. And I don't get, again, I think they're just repeating nonsense there. But continue, sorry.
Yeah, it just works out. Right? That's exactly my point. And the more you read about his statements, the more it's like, okay, he's using smart sounding technical financial terms, but I'm pretty sure it's just word salad. And the way I read it is he just is hating on Bitcoin, and he's using his like whatever fucking degree he has and his dialogue of like just words to just make it sound credible. But it's just straight up hate on Bitcoin. That's it.
That's how I read it too. I mean, I think that we see this as like a big sweeping broader trend larger than Bitcoin right now is just people with certain credentials that people, for whatever reason, assign credibility to, will make these arguments and make these statements. Well, really, they're not making arguments. They're just making statements without backing up any of the claims in the article. They're just, anyone who like understands the structure of a complete argument will like read this and be like, well, what's the actual argument? They're like, Bitcoin's unstable because it's unstable. The price changed, therefore it's bad. It's like, these are just not fully baked claims. Kind of what you're saying about what does it mean that it's making capital leave these countries? It's like, they're not fully explaining. They kind of just are. There's like a hole missing in like the sequence of like logical claims that have to be true for the conclusion to be true, and they just don't expect anyone to do that work, or they just don't care to, because even if people reach that conclusion, right, most individuals are like not going to get fired up about it to like prove them wrong, or not going to find a bigger microphone to shout down the original commentary.
It's a big, scary, emotional term, extracting money from country. I mean, they don't need to explain why it's happening or what the heck it even mean. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like a lot of people, there's this like mode of thinking where you just hear somebody who's credentialed and smart say a bunch of big words and you go on this trance. You're not actually understanding what their point is. And then at the end, they give you a conclusion. And you're like, oh, okay, that conclusion's right. And I think that's what this guy just speaks to in his entire everything.
Gandalf.
Yeah, I mean, I find it really hard to even try to engage with this sort of news or information, because it's just so nonsensical that it's like I think, Louis, you nailed it with your explanation. Like that the things that have to be true for his arguments to make sense. Like he none of his sentences make sense. Basically, like it's like he's just putting together a whole bunch of like fancy words that Safety had a podcast with Alan Farrington. He called them Chomsky sentences, I think they're called. It's like sentences that are a whole bunch of like words that together like they mean nothing. It's like, but they make sense, right? It makes grammatical sense, but it doesn't mean anything.
It looks like AI generated content.
Yeah. It like literally means nothing. So again, like, you know, this guy knows this guy clearly knows nothing about Bitcoin, and I wouldn't like you guys said. Wouldn't expect him to support Bitcoin in the first place. So I tend to just like I don't pay attention to these things. I just gloss over them and look for. It's very hard to find. Like I like to say, there's no informed Bitcoin bears. I heard that
they're all gone.
Yeah, I heard someone say that. Like everyone who's like a bear doesn't really get it,
or is just too deep in the incentive to maintain the status quo. Those are the two. The ones that are like evidently corrupt
and anyone
in their views.
Anyone in the IMF has a big incentive to maintain the status quo. I mean, that's the way it is. That's the financial system. So of course, they're not going to support it. If one of their dudes came out and supported, I mean, it's impossible.
Here, let me just read one more of these things. Okay, so here's a quote from the guy: "The adoption of cryptocurrency's legal tender entails large risks for financial and market integrity, financial stability, and consumer protection. It also creates contingent liabilities." The fuck does any of that mean?
Yeah,
contingent liability. Yeah. I mean, it's a fancy word to mesmerize people, and a lot of people like that. They like it's complexity worship. People hear something, they must be right. I don't know what they mean, but they're great.
Hiding behind jargon.
Yeah. All right. So I wanted to get that. Anyone else have anything to say about Russia, IMF, international stuff that we were talking about?
I was going to say, just generally speaking, like even in this article, the grouping of cryptocurrency versus Bitcoin specifically, and like the criticisms, that's just like one of the first red flags that people like who are, not super experts in Bitcoin and are trying to like go through an article and discern, is this credible? Is this not credible? Generally, when there's just a total grouping like that, you can assume that they're just going to say things that are true about cryptocurrency in general, apply them to Bitcoin, and hope people don't notice. And I think this article is very, very guilty of that.
Bitcoin.
That's a good observation there. That's a good tell when you know someone doesn't know what the heck. If they're ripping on Bitcoin and then just throwing in crypto and describing, it's good. That's a good. And of course they don't know. They don't give a damn. All right. Let's move on to bring it back to the United States and politics here. Okay. And Dustin, we'll start with you because this is how we met online, at least. You said earlier in the show that the U.S. hates on Bitcoin, okay? And politically right now, it appears more so that if you're a Republican, you're more likely to jump on the Bitcoin bandwagon for whatever reason, just because you think you can get money from it, and that some Democrats or just take the Elizabeth Warren take on it. It must be bad. If one Republican likes it, it must be bad. and this is my way of becoming more of a fascist and being more of an authoritarian by banning this and pretending to help the little guy, even though it really helps the little guy when you allow innovation to thrive. So you, Dustin, were interested in finding Democrats
Definitely
that are interested in Bitcoin. So tell us why you're interested in that, and if you were able to find it. And this Erica lady,
Erica Rhodes, yeah.
She just had a talk, but she's talking about UBI also at the same time. Now, I can support UBI on if you get rid of all the other welfare programs and you get rid of all our taxes. I think UBI would be great. Then all the smart people can say, okay, I'm in the Bitcoin. UBI can be fiat. I'm in the Bitcoin. Let everything fall where it may fall. But I don't know why she was. I didn't hear her talk. But I wonder why she's a UBI fan and Bitcoin fan, and maybe she's got a logic to it like I do. But Dustin, take it away. Sorry.
I mean, that's hard to answer. I think like to appeal to the Democrats, you got to talk that way, you know? And so like maybe she believes it. She probably does. But honestly, I'm just excited about how we have politicians fighting over us. Like whether it's genuine or not, the fact that they see Bitcoin as a thing that's worth pursuing politically, I think is like, I'm just ecstatic. And I think that even if worst case scenario, these candidates that are running on Bitcoin, like get elected, don't care about Bitcoin, they still want to get reelected. So they're going to still push back at least somewhat on some of the nonsense we've seen go through Congress and other things. So I'm excited about that. But Erica Rhodes in particular, Jack Dorsey's taken a liking to her. And I think they did a talk before. They're doing like a televised talk like soon. I'm sure he's like donating to her campaign. I donated to her campaign. And like, she seems like she's genuine in it. And honestly, really a big part of it with Erica Rhodes is if you know Brad Sherman, he's like the Bitcoin hater in Congress, she's going to unseat him. So like that actually adds credence to the argument. She's just doing it because it could be a political move, but I don't think that's so bad. I think I think I would love to have politicians that are pure Bitcoin up there, but the next best thing is ones that are just trying to simp for us. And like, that's better than the opposite.
That is a very positive take. I like. They're just going to simp for us. That's good too. it's good. You had previously you said if Russia actually adopted it, it would be good PR. You could always boil it down to hey, at least they're talking Bitcoin, even if they might be doing it for the wrong reasons or whatever. It's getting the name out there more, and it might be inspiring some good people. Now, yes, she's getting all the attention because she's going against the number one Bitcoin hater out there. I mean. Elizabeth Warren is number two to him because he has just said some insane things, Brad Sherman. I mean, he has no shame. His blind love of his banking supporters. That I mean, at least he's honest about it, I guess. Why he hates Bitcoin so much. Now, but have you discovered any more Democrat? I mean, and what was your interest in or maybe I misinterpreted.
Yeah, well, I think that Bitcoin didn't have any political affiliation for a long time, and now there's like more Republicans getting excited about it, and
that's
I
dangerous.
I really wish I want it to stay a bipartisan issue as best as we're able to. So I think more effort on getting progressives and liberals on board is good, just because we already have headway with Republicans. So just trying to keep it more bipartisan, so it can't be this oh, Republicans are doing it, therefore we'll never do it. And it may be too late for that. I don't know, but I feel like there's a chance and we should fight for it. I don't vote Democrat. I'm not a Democrat, but I want to support the Bitcoin Democrat candidates, basically.
It's not too late. Never say never, baby. All right, Lewis, you got some political take here. Take it away.
Yeah, I was going to agree. I think that one of the biggest short-term threats to Bitcoin in terms of its appeal and the way big swaths of the public perceive it is if we don't get more Democratic leaders to come on board with it. I think Suarez is a really good example. I don't think he's Republican. I think he's left-leaning, or he's Florida, a Democrat by Florida standards, right? So I don't know how that shakes the pot. But if people just see the example that comes to my head is Ted Cruz. Whether or not you like him, there's a lot. He's just never been popular with the Democrats. And if he becomes the face of Bitcoin in Washington D.C., whether or not he's truly informed about it, which I genuinely think he's one of the more informed politicians on the subject, it doesn't matter, right? None of this is about, in politics, it's not about who's actually being truthful, who understands the underlying subject matter. It's about who can win the mimetic game, who's winning the meme more in terms of spreading the idea and making it seem like something that the parties involved behind the scenes are on board with. So I'm not telling Ted Cruz to slow down at all. I think he should definitely heat up. It's just like you're saying, no, get people who are Republican Bitcoiners all of a sudden just really bringing out the support for anyone on the other side also bringing up this issue. Even, right, like you said, even if they're LARPing, like they're still making Democrats be like, it's okay to be a Democrat and have this viewpoint. And then again, as people continue to understand it, because anytime, you one-on-one with someone who's Democrat on Bitcoin, they're like, well, why don't you like it? Right. And then there's the energy FUD. Then you take a couple minutes to go through that with them. And then they maybe see things your way because they also realize they haven't studied the problem. They've just listened to someone else make the talking points, like we said, with the kind of same IMF mumbo jumbo that makes people fall into these traps of like having just blatantly wrong beliefs. And then you get them through the energy FUD. You get them through like, why are you Democrat, right? Because you want to help the little guy, because you believe in like all of these people who have these bad circumstances and you want to help them. And then it's like, do you understand why Bitcoin was created? Do you understand the context why it was created? Do you think corporate bailouts? I mean, you just like hit them through like any of the talking points that have been like rehashed since like 2009 on like the most original forums, and they come on board. But if the first seeded out can be removed by people on their side speaking in favor of Bitcoin, then that's just like another really, really positive step.
Very good point about Ted Cruz. If he became the face of Bitcoin in DC, oh yeah, the Democrats would be it would stifle Democrat adoption right there, which is unfortunate. They couldn't look past that. But you make a really a strong, and he is a very smart man too, and he represents a state, the great state of Texas, that is going to do huge Bitcoin things because of its freedom-loving ways. So he could, in theory, become a bigger face of Bitcoin, and yeah, that would turn Democrats off, and they're just hurting themselves right there with that type of thing. Gandalf, I don't know. Do you have any commentary on the U.S. Political system and Bitcoin? What we've been talking about?
Yeah, I gotta say, like, I don't live in the U.S. and I wouldn't say I necessarily like have my finger on the pulse of U.S. politics, but I completely agree that you wouldn't want it to become a partisan issue. So I think it's important that it's seen as either neutral or something that both sides agree on. Like, you don't get politicians arguing. One's like pro US dollar and the other one's like anti US dollar. So we want it to be like that kind. We want it to be so ubiquitous, or however you say that word. I'm struggling with it. That both sides agree, or it's just neutral. They don't even talk about it because there's nothing to, usually politicians are talking about matters that they have disputes about, not things that they agree on. They actually probably don't really want to highlight the things they agree on, right?
Dude, here in Texas,
the other side.
With this governor race, they're all competing to be more Bitcoin than the other.
Yeah,
They're one up against each other. It's amazing.
It's crazy. And look, I think we should all, on the topic of like politicians LARPing and stuff, I think we can all be fans of and support given actions that are good for Bitcoin without making them either be good or bad because of those actions. Like, just because somebody takes an action that's positive for Bitcoin doesn't mean they're an amazing politician and like everyone should go vote for them and support them. And just because they don't do something good you know what I mean? Like the action good. Yeah. The action good, the person, depends on what future actions they take.
Yeah, very good points. Very, very good points there. Don't put these politicians on pedestals either. Again, because you're only going to get disappointed. Even Loomis, I think she is doing it out of good, but you never know. You never know what could happen here one day with some of these dudes. They could switch on a dime. I mean, if we went to war with Russia and then it became, not that it's going to happen, but anyway. Okay. Any more political talk before we move on here to some other subject matters?
I'm just excited. You go back like 5 years ago, the idea of me talking about which politicians into Bitcoin do we believe and don't believe. I'm just ecstatic. This is amazing.
No, you're a good PR man for Bitcoin. You have the positive spin on everything. So I like that. I like that a lot.
No, but it's so true. If you've been around since even 2016. I mean, I've been around since 2013. But it would be a dream back in 2016 if any politician was talking about Bitcoin. Now, the Texas governor's race, everybody's talking about it. It's the second biggest state in the country. Everybody in DC is talking about it. All sorts. Everyone has to have a Bitcoin opinion now, which is a dream. In 2016, you wouldn't be able to. It was unbelievable.
I think we live in a world. Well, the Bitcoin echo chamber is one that thinks like Bitcoin should be the world reserve currency, like currency of the world. Like it's just it's actually like it's underrated, but that's where it should be. So anything that isn't that, we're upset. Like, you know, we have about okay, except for Dustin, he loves everything. No, but what I mean is like this isn't good enough. Like we want more. We deserve more, right? Bitcoin is amazing. I think that's the attitude or sort of a sentiment that a lot of the Bitcoin community have, because they see a certain thing in Bitcoin. I'm there too. I just so yeah, I just but I wasn't there. I haven't been around pre like 2020, so I didn't know what it was like when, you know, there was like a risk that Bitcoin could fail, or I'm a child of like the Bitcoin's already won era.
Well, you're absolutely right that it deserves it. Damn it, it does.
Gandalf, I thought you've been around longer, but you got this old white beard and stuff. I mean, I thought you were like from 2013.
How long did that take to grow?
This is like 3,100 years, but trimmed. Yeah.
Wait. Okay, so we got. I know Dustin's been a while. We'll let Dustin answer this question last. I want to go. Lewis, how long have you been in the space for?
It's tough to say. I mean, I bought my first Bitcoin in very, very small amounts in 2016, but I really consider myself more a class of 2020.
Okay. And Dustin, you're hardcore as anything. You've been around since when?
Well, I like to think that you have your freshman year of Bitcoin when you first find it. Maybe you buy some, then you have like your class O when you graduate. So I think my freshman year is 2011, and I think I'm like class of 2015.
No, I haven't graduated yet. No way.
Wait, Dustin, you bought your first Bitcoin in 2011?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, baby. Pound that is some vet. And do you still have that Bitcoin? Do you still have pieces?
Oh no. I got pieces. I'll say that much.
A couple of UTXOs still from
One day they'll become UTX hoes. I'm just waiting.
I got my 2013 Bitcoin still. Pound that like button, baby. I love it.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah, just for the record, now I heard, like, I got told about it in 2016, 2017. I was a classic, like, I studied economics and I fancied myself like an investor, like just, you know, equities, not like, you know, investing in like angel, none of that shit. But so I was like, okay, interesting. I got told about it by somebody that was like, that I kind of like respected and was like successful and rich and stuff. And I was like, okay, like seems pretty cool. I'll keep an eye on it. And then like, I read a couple of mainstream media articles, and then I was like, it's all about blockchain, not Bitcoin. And this is a bubble.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's and then I was like, you know, the 2018 crash happened, and I was like, see, I was right, it was a bubble. But I kept my eye on it, and then when it went back to 10K, I was like, okay, obviously I'm wrong here. There's something here that I need to study. Nice. So I bought some Bitcoin, and then a year later, I managed to spend some time going down the rabbit hole, and then I was like instantly orange pilled all in. And then
I think the Bitcoin conversion requires humility. You have to be able to look at yourself and say, how am I wrong? And be comfortable doing that. Yep. And it sounds like you went through exactly that.
Yeah. Gandalf, that was very impressive that you could find say that you were wrong. Yeah, I mean, there's so few guys. Peter Schiff can't say that. All sorts of dudes. There are all sorts of dudes that can't say, well, I was mistaken. I've learned my lesson. Definitely humility is something that's lacking in this world today. But hey, they can have fun staying poor if they want to be stubborn, dudes. I do want to say, flashback real quick to last week's show. We were talking about the Las Vegas event. Oh, I'm going to be at Unconfiscatable this year in Las Vegas, March 3rd to 6th. Okay, I mean, that's coming up in a month.
I'm going to Las Vegas tomorrow.
Nice.
Maybe I'll stay till March now if there's a reason to.
Do it.
Sometimes people come the day before a conference. You're coming the month before a conference. It's a true
I'm from Las Vegas.
Adam, I'm flying over as well, mate.
Wait. So we're jumping around. I want to say, so yeah, Tone was an awesome guest last week. We were giving away some tickets to the event on March 3rd and 6th in Las Vegas. And I wanted to say there's someone that needs to contact me out there, William Phillips. If you are watching this, you can DM me at TechBalt. Follow me on Twitter, guys, TECHBALT. You can DM me there and email me at adam@tresorhelp.com. I rarely give out that email address here on the show, but William Phillips, you really should contact me. It has to do with the Las Vegas thing. Yeah, Dustin, are you going to be in Las Vegas for the event? I saw
definitely.
Okay.
What's it called?
It's Unconfiscatable. Unconfiscatable. Come to it there. It's going to be a blast. Wait, Lewis, you live usually in Las Vegas, or you're from there originally?
I don't know anymore. I'm from Las Vegas, but I've been on the road for a while. I moved to Nashville when I worked for Bitcoin Magazine, and now I've got a new job and it's remote. So I'm deciding where I'm resettling.
What about Austin?
Well, and Lewis, you have family in South Florida also, I guess.
I have family in South Florida and family in Southern Nevada.
Okay. Very, very interesting there. A combination. You got you. Hey, that's the beauty. I don't live anywhere anymore. I'm from Baltimore. I've been traveling around for years now. That's the Bitcoin lifestyle, baby. So hey, buying a house is an attack vector. Everybody remember that. I brought up that term beforehand, but William Phillips, please contact me here. Okay. All right. So moving on. Let's talk about LeBron James, baby. Let's talk a mainstream. I don't usually like LeBron James too much, bringing his talents down to South Beach, whatever he said back in the day. But I got to give him a little bit of credit on this. He's trying to educate the people about crypto, Bitcoin, whatever he wants to call it. Okay. And I don't know what I did with the darn headline.
I got it here.
I know, I got it. James teams with Crypto.com to bring digital education to students. I want to ensure that communities like the one I can't come from are not left behind, James said in a statement. Blockchain technology is revolutionizing our economy, sports and entertainment, the art world, and how we engage with one another. Okay, so he says his publicist said some pretty generic things for him there, but this is the thing. Let me tell you, the public school system in these inner cities, horrible. They're not learning a darn thing, okay? Instead of trying to teach them whatever they're trying to teach them, this is great. Learning about Bitcoin is much better than the education, the woke education they're getting, the woke that they're not even going to school anymore. They in Baltimore, they're still scared to send people back to public school. It's horrible. It's terrible what's going on. So I like this. I think kids should be able to opt in. Having a Bitcoin education, I mean, it's an immediate skill that is worth a lot. If you know how to send a Bitcoin, I've said this many times, that is a valuable skill today. So that LeBron and he's making it cool for the young people to learn about Bitcoin. He's making it also cool to strive for wealth and savings, okay? Because a lot of the attack vectors on Bitcoin are just people that hate wealth, that hate productivity. And by teaching this, he wants the communities to do better for themselves, to have wealth. And I think that's good, a good spin. Instead of being victim, we live in such a victim woke world today, and this is not victim woke stuff that he's talking about. So I commend him on that. That his publicist says all this blockchain stuff. Okay, whatever. Okay, no one is perfect, but I think all young people they should be have classes in Bitcoin. I think it would be awesome, and we're getting closer if LeBron is kind of directing people in that way. So. Who wants to speak first on this? Anybody got an opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I wish it was Bitcoin, but you make a really good point. It's better than just teaching woke stuff and Pythagorean theorem or something. And I think that hopefully, I'm just really curious what the quality will be like. And I guess it's early days, but I just wish it weren't Bitcoin. Is LeBron James? Is he a Bitcoiner at all? Does he have any Bitcoin?
Well, you see, the thing is Crypto.com. They're the sponsor of the Lakers arena. So I'm sure this is the thing. He's probably very much into the other side of things. Who knows? He hasn't made a public statement if he actually owns cryptocurrency or not. But
a lot of these sports guys are buying it.
Oh yeah, I mean, and you wonder about the quality of the education. I mean, he's got all the money in the world. Crypto.com's got all the money in the world. So I think it really could be a good program. They got the funding. There's no doubt about it. Lewis, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, like you said, his publicist made a pretty generic statement that LeBron James cryptocurrency, period. Right. And you're like, LeBron James, inner city schools, education, crypto.com, basketball. Yeah. And we're like, cool. That's good. Right. It's better than LeBron James coming out publicly and being like, if your school's teaching you about Bitcoin, change schools, because there's plenty of people coming out with that tone. Yeah. But I think inner city schools could be kindergartners is like, what are you going to tell them? Right. Versus it could be high schoolers. And then you're helping saying maybe you should consider storing some money, or if you're going to be trading this is ways to not lose a ton of money. And I think that's really good. And if this just spills over generically into traditional financial habits and disciplines to teach people. I think that's super positive. I don't see anything negative from this, right? I think there's like a spectrum of how great it could be. And like best case scenarios, LeBron comes out and he's like, this is not only am I teaching these kids about this, but like they're going to get Bitcoin wallets and donating Bitcoin or blah, 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 blah. Like, and Bitcoin, here's why, there's a million things that could be better, but like, this is just another nudge and, pushing like the Bitcoin rock up the hill in terms of like getting mass adoption, having someone who I don't think LeBron James, tying it to the politics. He's never been accused of being an overly Republican figure. So having him come out with a big microphone and having him come out with a big microphone in support of the industry in general is nothing but a positive. Again, the extent to which this is actually going to make kids well informed about this, etc. But at least it's like someone position of authority, both in terms of sports and in the classroom, being like, this is something that's real. It's a real thing and you should know about it and it matters and it's culturally relevant. That's all very, very good.
I take the point that it's a spectrum and we're all on the positive side of the spectrum. Like the worst case is like a bunch of kids get into shitcoins. But if we're honest, like a lot of the Bitcoiners today went through a process like that themselves. They went and bought Ethereum or Solana or whatever the nonsense was, and then eventually learned about Bitcoin. So if kids can do that when they're younger, before they have money to lose, maybe just they'll get to Bitcoin by the time they have savings. It could be good.
I would love if LeBron just straight up made a proclamation. Every public school in America should teach Bitcoin. That would be huge. Because some of these worshipers would just blindly do it and do anything the dude says. It would be because again, right now it's about the how do we figure out why we're victims and who do we need to take revenge against? That's what we learned. The public schools seem to be going in that direction now, which is not very productive. But hey, Gandalf, you got any comments on us Americans and sporties talking Bitcoin in our education system here? What's next?
Honestly, like I think the lesson I take away from this is like how to do excellent PR, because I think Louis nailed it. Crypto, blockchain, education, inner city kids, like. Very, very hard to read that and think, wow, LeBron James is not a nice guy. Like, so it's hard to say. We can't really opine on whether it's good or bad because we don't know the details about anything about what they're going to teach and how they're going to teach it and who's going to teach it. But as a piece of PR, if any of us need to do PR, it's a good way to learn what good PR is.
Oh, he's got a good publicist, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Spent a big time on his publicist out in Southern California where everybody's locked up still. All right, pound that like button, everybody. People in the chat, do a super chat. We only need $34 more to get the next One Bitcoin show. Okay, remember, we haven't had a One Bitcoin show. We tried to raise $100 for a One Bitcoin show. We need 34 more bucks. Hey, and ask the panel members questions. That's how you do it with a super chat or type in BitcoinMeister there. I want to move on to another, well, it's a North American issue here. We up north of the border, the Canadians are having we don't hear about it in the mainstream news because there's a total blackout, which is not shocking at all. These truckers are doing some good stuff up there. I like what I've seen, what I've been able to gather. I can only find out something about it on freaking Twitter, okay? But there was something that slipped out in the mainstream media. The GoFundMe had been frozen until organizers offered a detailed plan regarding how funds would be spent. All right. So the truckers had some issues with their GoFundMe. They got turned off, which, I mean, come on, truckers. You should have known better. Bitcoin fixes this. And don't worry, you're not going to be able to be funded. By the time this thing is over, you're not going to have a GoFundMe. You're not going to have a PayPal. This is what censoring money is all about. This is what third-party systems are all about. PayPal, GoFundMe. So any of those truckers that think they're going to get funded this way, you're making a big mistake. You guys should have jumped into Bitcoin right away. So I hope somebody up there in trucker land, I hope they keep on honking their horn in Ottawa, but they really got to get some Bitcoin funding immediately. They cannot rely on, or they're in big trouble, okay? Because I mean, the lies that are being told about these people, it'll get them banned from every single possible thing, but they can't get banned from Bitcoin. So I just wanted to toss that out there. Does anyone have any take on the? You can say anything about the Canadian dudes, what they're doing, but any take on their funding mechanisms?
I mean, I don't want to come out being critical of them for kind of just failure of oversight, right? I mean, it's one of those things with the censorship. I've not heard of GoFundMe's being censored before, so it's just a failure of imagination of what could have gone wrong. And I think they're adapting quickly. And I don't think their area of expertise has been the financial world, right? Just like that's not a super. And when I talk about financial world, I'm not talking about personal finances. I'm talking about like the global macro picture. I don't think that's like part of the job description. And freight is to like be well versed in that. So it's just like, yeah, why would we be censored? Like, why would that even be a consideration? So I don't fault them at any point for like not having thought of that. That's like a lot of the reason, zooming out, why Bitcoin has been a lot slower to catch on in USA and Canada than other parts of the world where people believe in like the rule of law and believe in like the integrity of their systems. That's why like we're like, why is this even worth learning about? That's why like it takes a lot of time for a lot of people to get orange pilled in these countries. So that's probably why they didn't think of it. And now there's a whole lot of people who are going to get orange pilled because they're going to be pleased to realize like, okay, if this saved me in this situation, there's all sorts of other situations that's relevant. And they kind of already have like very fertile ideas or very fertile beliefs in their heads that like would lead them to become orange pilled as well, in terms of like their understanding of like the tyranny of their state and understanding like the lack of freedoms. And like GoFundMe just kind of made themselves less relevant for.
I think you don't care about financial censorship till it happens to you. And then you care about it real quick. So it's kind of a lesson, a shitty one, but a lesson. Yeah.
Yeah. I do wonder when it will become more common sense to think about financial. I mean, Americans are just
soon.
They're too spoiled.
Not laughing, but laughing. Yeah.
Well,
I'll say one other thing. I was fortunate enough, just because it's Canadian, I was fortunate enough on Monday of this week to see Dr. Jordan Peterson in person in Miami. And he's becoming orange pilled, and he's Canadian, and he was coming out in support of these truckers. That was like one of the first things he talks about at the beginning of his set at the show.
Dude, they raised like $10 million on GoFundMe before they closed it. It was a lot.
But Jordan Peterson Saifedean interview was great, by the way. He was learning from Saifedean. You could tell he was like, "Oh, this is amazing." Yeah, Jordan Peterson has. In terms of Canadian politics the last few weeks, Jordan Peterson has been hitting some home runs. Okay, he's been talking about some constitutional crisis up there in Canada with a politician from the east side, from Nova Scotia, I think. Anyway, Jordan Peterson is great, and it's great that he's getting into Bitcoin, and it's great that you got to hear him speak in person. Gandalf, any comments about censoring the mainstream financial system, and when these people are going to wake up, when more people in the Western world are going to wake up to it?
Yeah, I think Dustin nailed it. Like, until it happens to you, it's not something that's in your consciousness of your realm of possibility. Otherwise, obviously, they wouldn't have used GoFundMe, and they wouldn't have used traditional banking rails or whatever else, because they realize like all these things are actually permissioned, and somebody can just stop these funds from getting to me if they don't agree with what I'm trying to do. So great opportunity for orange pilling a very, very, very large number of people. But I think, in terms of like the waking up of the masses, I think COVID's done wonders for that as well. I think a lot of people have realized the power of the state to do things that would seem very dystopian. If you'd said, a couple of years ago, the state's not going to let you out of your house, or they're going to like dictate that you have to wear a face covering, or like they're going to tell you have to get a vaccine and like have a vaccine passport to travel, like that would have seemed like some dystopian, weird, like you're crazy conspiratorial guy, and now it's all true.
Yes, it has definitely that we can see that it's all can really happen, but at the same time, we can see there's a substantial percentage of the population that loves that and likes to live in a dystopian world. They crave that kind of authority over them, which is very disturbing also, and also shows why we will never have a full Bitcoin world, because there will be people that worship whatever the state tells them to do. Gandalf, you talked about throughout the show that we live in this bubble on Bitcoin Twitter where we all think everybody's going to love and adopt Bitcoin one day. There's going to be a Bitcoin standard, this, that, and the other. I think one thing that these last 2 years have taught us is that there are people that love to be servile servants that will believe anything the government tells them to do, and will worship any authoritarian as long as he's got their colors on, okay? As long as he's part of their team. So there's a lot that's learned. Some of it is good, some of it is scary, but hey, hold your Bitcoin. I think you'll be in good shape. I was just diverted here. Anyone else have anything to say about our diversion? All right. Let's get back on track. We're here toward the end of the show. Dustin, since you're in Texas, tell us. Have you been to the Houston meetup? I think you mentioned that you had been to the Houston meetup.
I have in the past, yeah.
How big is this darn thing? How big is Bitcoin in Texas? You're in Austin. I'm in Midland. I'm in Midland.
It's becoming the Mecca, man.
Yeah. It's the Mecca. Tell us about the Texas Mecca. And will you be going to Miami in April?
I'm definitely going to Miami in April. I want to go. I go to all the events, most of them, as long as there's not too many shitcoins in it. But like Austin, I think it's just pulling all the Bitcoiners here. And there's the BitDevs thing every month. People just fly in for that. The Bitcoin population like quadruples during that weekend. And actually, every month it feels like the before and after of a conference. There's like people going to bars, hanging out. You get to talk to like Bitcoiners about Bitcoin stuff constantly. I did a bunch of traveling around America this last year, just going to a bunch of Bitcoin shit. And like Austin was my favorite by far. The only one I haven't gone to is actually Nashville. And I was curious to hear about how the Nashville scene is. If you had any thoughts on that.
Ooh, that's home of Bitcoin magazine. I got to tell you one thing about Nashville. I spent a lot of time in Nashville. I actually didn't see Bitcoiners there, but man, that city is awesome, dude. That's a free freaking city where people were partying every weekend. Those bachelorette parties were coming down there. I think they like country music for some reason. The Airbnbs were packed. It was great, compared to like, I don't even tell you, New York City, everybody's scared, wearing stuff on their faces and all. Okay, good. So Texas looking good. You're going to Miami. You're in freaking, you're in freaking motion. There's some Gandalf I wanted to ask about. I know you probably won't be going to Miami or anything like that.
No, I'm coming unconfiscatable, baby. I'm coming to.
They're letting you out.
Unconfiscatable. I'm coming to Houston at the end of March for Empower Energizing Bitcoin Conference. I'm coming to Miami, and I'm going to BitBlock Boom in August in Austin as well. So
oh my God, this dude is awesome. This dude,
he's on tour.
I'm going to meet you in a month. Then I'm going to meet you in a month. Wow.
Hell yeah.
Oh, this is a surprise to me.
Are you playing in the poker tournament?
I don't gamble. I will be there that night. I'll say hi to everybody on Thursday night there, but I won't participate in it. But I know what I wanted to say to you. That I wanted to also say to Dustin, because that's the way I met him, was over Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces. Dustin, I think you spend some time in these in crypto or in Bitcoin Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse. Am I correct on this?
Yeah, it's like, not too much, give or take, like 40 hours a week, something like that.
Whoa. So I want Gandalf and you to, and I think Gandalf knows a bit about this too. What is the vibe over there? And this stuff is growing. I think a lot of people don't even watch YouTube videos. Instead they spend their time over there. So what's your take on Bitcoin Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse?
I think they're always changing. Like, I think, Clubhouse has become a bunch of hodlers that are it's like a support group that just get through the long phase of hodling, which can be boring. But having other people doing it with you, especially when the price dumps in half or whatever, you guys can support each other, I think has been really helpful for people. Like, I know in the past, I just hodled alone, and there's something very lonely about that. But having a group of people that you can just bullshit with is great. I think Clubhouse also sometimes breaks out into actual Bitcoin conversation. But it does have that thing where it's going 24/7. So there's not enough stuff to talk about all day. So we'll just talk about our lives. And I get the sense Spaces is more formal Bitcoin talk. That's kind of how it feels to me. What do you guys think?
Gandalf, I want your team, because you were just on one, weren't you, Gandalf?
I do a regular Bitcoin Spaces. Well, I don't do it. I'm just one of the speakers on a Friday with some friends, and we just talk about Bitcoin. And I really enjoy that one. But I used to go on Twitter Spaces a lot when it first came out, and there was just impromptu. I remember there's the legendary Nick Carter, where Nayib Bukele comes on and they're in the El Salvadorian parliament whilst the Bitcoin laws being passed.
That was epic.
That was epic. The Mark Cuban, Preston Pish one, that was epic. There's been a couple here and there, but I haven't had time. I just started running BTC Times. And I have a couple of other things going on as well. So I just haven't had that much time to consume content recently. So I don't know what's been going on with Twitter Spaces. Plus I found a lot of just the more informal spaces is just people chatting. So I don't get a lot of value out of that unless I want to chat with people.
So the Clubhouse vibe is invading spaces then, huh?
All right. It's just amazing how these social media has evolved in the Bitcoin space since I got in. There was nothing at first. It was just YouTube. Then, we got this Twitter thing going on. And, and now it's everything. But speaking about Epic and some history here, you mentioned Nick Carter. And indeed, he's an epic type of guy. I've been in this so long that Nick Carter was on my channel in 2017. He was so young. It was one of the first it might have been his first appearance on any social media, okay? To show you how things have changed so much since then. Nobody knew who he was. I knew this dude was smart. I had to have him on. One of my other guests was a Bitcoiner named Richard Hart at the time. You can check out the archives. So I had both of those dudes on my show at the same time. I think my buddy Rocky in Los Angeles was the third guest, I believe, on that show. And it was in September or August of 2017. Go to the archives, disruptmeister.com. You want to see a young, quiet Nick Carter with a confident lover of Bitcoin, Richard Hart, before he really, And Richard Hart is ripping on altcoiners there and all sorts of things that I think a lot of people will be surprised about. But okay, let's, I've seen it all, guys. Best guest in the freaking space I bring you every freaking Friday here. These three guys are going down in history as part of the best freaking guests in the space. I don't bring you lame-o people. I bring you people that are wild, unique freaking beast, like at coinbeast.com. Oh, I'm giving all sorts of promos here. So, okay, Gandalf, I'm going to see you in Las Vegas, and you're going to be in Miami also, correct? You said Miami also, Gandalf?
That's right.
So I'm going to see you all. I'm going to touch your beard. It's going to be great. We're going to hug each other. We're going to embrace because that's what being in person is about. It's about hugging people, all right? And people, because there's people in New York City and Los Angeles, they're scared. They're freaking neat freaks. They can't touch anybody. So I love it. I love it. Having nothing but natural blood going through my veins and nothing on my face and hugging people. It's great because that's what life is. Okay. All right. So let's Lewis, sorry. Are you going to be at the Miami event? And tell us about what you're doing. And you also wanted to talk about a little bit the real estate in Colombia transaction. Take it away. And if you have anything to say about social media, Twitter Spaces, all this craziness.
Yeah, I'm with Gandalf on day-to-day. Spaces don't really fit my schedule that well. I'm kind of like an asynchronous audio guy. I can't say that might be heresy to say on a live audio show, but that's also recorded and available for people asynchronously. I'll go on Twitter occasionally throughout the day, but if I find a space, I've watched a ton of recorded spaces weeks later. So I'm glad the format exists, and I think a lot of great things happen, and I'm glad a lot of people rip the audio and put it on YouTube. But that's been my experience with that space. I think that I'll definitely be in Miami for the conference. I bought my ticket at the last conference before I even worked at Bitcoin Magazine. And so I bought it with Bitcoin. I know, hate to see it, but I probably just bought more Bitcoin the next day to cover for it. And then I worked for the magazine and I was like, oh, sweet, I'm going to have an extra ticket. And now I no longer work there because I'm in a different role in the space. So I'm glad I have that original ticket. I hodled the Bitcoin Magazine conference ticket.
They didn't revoke it? That's nice of them.
No. I bought one before I worked there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, I might have to rethink my flights back to Florida because I'm going to Las Vegas tomorrow. So maybe I'll just stay for a few weeks, come to the poker game. We'll see about that. And then, now I'm working for Anthony Pompliano on his job board and crypto education course. Doing growth marketing. So that's the current job. Helping people get prepared for the crypto workforce and find the best opportunities in the space.
Oh, dude, that is so awesome because there's so many opportunities in the space. There's
probably 500 jobs on the website today. There's a ton.
Oh, dude, I did not know that about you, that you were doing that. And you're on the education side of things. Dude, this is the golden age, people, okay? Look, get into this. Don't say there are all these people that, the only job I can get is at Target or whatever. Come on, people. This is where it's at, baby. The Bitcoin
and it's not just engineering jobs on there either. That's maybe like a fifth of it.
Good. You don't have to be some technical nerd. You could be a marketing guy. You could
be an HR person. These companies need HR people too. They need compliance people. They need customer service. There's everything. Everything a normal company would need, a crypto company needs.
So somebody in the chat said, which episode was Nick Carter on? Nick Carter was on 2 of my episodes.
Yeah, I was looking a minute ago. I can't find it quite.
Go to techbalt.com, techbalt.com. That will show you every This Week in Bitcoin that I have ever done. And that's like over 200 of them. And look, check out the ones from the summer of 2017. I've got the dates of all of them. So Nick, it was around August, September. So he was on twice. And then Richard Hart was on twice also. They were together at one point. Maybe I'll find the link and add it in the notes section at the thing. But I want to go back to the present here, man. You are doing some great things working for Pomp. And I mean, good job, man. Very good job. And did you want to mention that real estate story real quick in Colombia, or do you think it's not? It doesn't matter.
I don't think it's. I mean, it's. I don't want to say it's not important, but people can find it for themselves. It's on the Bitcoin Magazine feed under the recent one. I think it was by Nomsios. That dude's a legend. Writes a ton of great pieces. But it was just showing that South American real estate firm made their first deal in Colombia for a piece of property down there. Like we've mentioned a couple times, I'm in motion considering all the places I want to go this year. Colombia's on that list, and I'm seeing people buy property down there with Bitcoin all of a sudden. So it might make it a more attractive destination. But, just more and more countries, Bitcoin, obviously Bitcoin is, I think, mature enough to be used for anything, right? Because, of course, you can always commit the sin of selling it to make the purchase you want to make. But being a growing list of things you can purchase without making that transition, I think is really encouraging. And a growing list of places where you can do that is also very encouraging. And I believe it's open node for people curious about who facilitated it on the back end.
I'm offended by selling, of course. I'm glad you mentioned that. And dudes, real estate, you can't take the real estate with you. So always be careful, people. It can become an attack vector. And some of these countries south of the border, you never know when the government's going to randomly change. But Colombia's been good lately. It's definitely been good. And I've been curious about going down there, but I haven't left the country since 2020 because of all these ridiculous stuff that's going on. And I want to make sure I'm able to I love traveling the United States, as I mentioned. It is all 50 states, 50 different experiments going on. That's another reason why you can, if things ever went crazy and the federal government tried to make Bitcoin illegal, I think maybe Florida and Texas would draw a line in the sand, hopefully. Let's not get there, though. Let's not get there. All right, Lewis, since I got you talking, anything else you want to promote? You've been a great guest. I'm so glad to have you on. You've got some podcasts. You got a lot of stuff going on. Tell us what you're doing, man.
Lots of stuff going on. I do host my own podcast since March of 2020. It's Bitcoin, entrepreneurship, and technology more generally. A lot of self-improvement topics as well. And it's a great show. I host it with a co-host. We're both 22. I think it's like a lot of other great podcasts in the space, but the hosts are a lot younger, which means the questions are there's a lot less boomer energy, which is super relevant and super preferred by a lot of people to actually be able to relate to the conversations going on. Because it's not just a lot of these, top 10, top 100 business podcasts, these dudes that are super wealthy talking to other dudes that are super wealthy about only problems that super wealthy people have. And that's not like the only skew of our podcast, of course. There's like other reasons it's interesting. But having two young hosts who are also kind of hustlers makes the questions a lot more relevant for the younger audience who's probably listening to the other guys saying, I just can't relate to this. So Lewis and Kyle Show. My personal Twitter is linked in all the resources related to this podcast we're on right now. And Lewis and Kyle Show is linked in my Twitter. So that's pretty easy to find.
All right. They're all linked. All three of these guys are linked to below. Please check them out. How old are the dudes on your show, if you can say?
The guests or the
my
co-host and I are both 22. My co-host and I are both 22. I mean, we've had 100 episodes, 100 different people. I mean, the oldest we hit, and
wow. So wait, are you born in 99 or 2000? I mean,
99.
Okay, 99. All right. Still amazing. So obviously you couldn't even bought Bitcoin in 2013, man. You were a young dude then. Whoa, that's awesome. All right. Let's go. Let's go to Gandalf here. What are you doing? Tell us what you're doing. Promote yourself. Anything you got to say?
Yeah, everything is like Louis. Also, everything's linked to my bio. But I'm the managing director at BTC Times. I just started running things there, and I also do social media marketing stuff for Brains and Slushpool. And then I have my own podcast called the This Is Bitcoin podcast, where I talk about building businesses in Bitcoin and tech, privacy, self-sovereignty stuff. And I'm learning how to do web development. So I just started a newsletter where I basically write a diary about learning web development and contributing to Bitcoin open source projects.
Now, did you have a tech background at all beforehand?
No, man. My background's in real estate. Before I got orange pilled, I got orange pilled in January, and I owned a real estate business, which I'm in the process of selling. So I just decided to dive into Bitcoin.
Whoa, dude, that is so awesome that you're doing tech stuff without a tech background. That's inspirational, man. I haven't had the time to do that type of thing yet, but it's kind of something I've dreamed of doing, becoming more of a techie. Because my background is in marketing.
Yeah, I've been, don't worry, I've been trying and failing since 2015 to learn how to do web development. So,
but sometimes when you're new, you have a better perspective. So if you're writing that down and sharing that with people, that can be quite beneficial.
Yeah, exactly. I'm doing it from like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just like basically sharing what I learn every day. Whereas like somebody who's like, very skilled, sure, they like understand all the concepts and stuff, but they're teaching you from a place where they're like been in the industry for 10 years. And I'm just bringing it live as I learn. So hopefully people find some value in that.
All right, Dustin, you're gonna get the last word here, unless anyone, unless there were any topics anybody wanted to bring up that we forgot to bring up. But Dustin, if there are any topics you can bring them up now, or what are you doing in Texas? Just say what you're up to.
I mean, I do have a question.
Yes,
it's a Bitcoin question. What should be done with the Bitcoin Twitter people who have removed their laser eyes? And I think Gandalf should answer this.
We should send them all, and we should drop them off the bridge into Mount Doom into the lava, I think.
There's a dude out there who's been keeping a list of people who have removed their laser eyes, even temporarily. He's like a spreadsheet.
I'm never taking mine off. Never.
Whoa! That's really hardcore Bitcoin Inquisition type of stuff right there. And come on, man. But hey, those people do serve as wow, they serve a purpose in Bitcoin. That hardcore bottom line that is just insane. And hey, everybody's welcome here. That is the beauty of Bitcoin. You can't kick anybody out. Yeah. All right, I don't like making lists at all.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely sketchy. But I do love the energy of the laser eyes. I think Jimmy Song's the only guy who gets an exception because he was pressured like crazy, and everyone's saying laser eyes to 100K, and you're saying, I'm going to put laser on once we hit 100K. And I felt like that gave him the only exemption card of the Bitcoiners.
You must wear the ribbon. Okay, Dustin, so what are you up to? Tell us what you're up to.
Oh, man, nothing to promote, man. But you can unfollow me on Twitter. You can unfollow me on Clubhouse. I'm in those places. I'm just focused on sea lighting development lately. So I'm just heads down programming shit. So right now I'm working on trampoline routing. So if someone knows more details about that, like DM them to me. But the odds are low. I think it's pretty niche.
I just picked up Mastering the Lightning Network by Andreas and Renee and shit. Yeah.
How do you like it?
I literally just got it delivered yesterday.
All
Very
right,
cool.
Trampoline, man. I don't even know you're doing some hardcore stuff here. All right, dudes. That is it. We did 3 new guests. It was really a fun show. New blood here. I really enjoyed it. Pound that like button, everybody. Retweet this on Twitter, okay? Go to disruptmeister.com. Go to techbalt.com. We'll be back next Friday. Who knows? We might be back next week another time if we raise the $34 to do the One Bitcoin Show. Shabbat Shalom, as I always say here on Friday, baby. I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Thanks a lot, guests. Thanks a lot, loyal watchers and listeners. And see you soon. Bye-bye, everybody.
Cheers.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
Ended it there. Let me end it over here real quick.